All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Matty here from Chill TCG. We got a super special video today. We are finally bringing back champion interviews. Today, we have Eric Brooks. He's the dude who won Chill Series number 42 with his Mewtwo Dark Box deck list. Today, we're going to go over his list, talk about it a little bit, ask him some questions about his matchups, his experience throughout the tournament. It's going to be super, super fun. We don't often get people from the U.S. who win, to be 100% honest with you, but when we do, and we can have good conversations with them, it's always great. So we got Eric on the call. What's going on, my dude?
Hey, good afternoon. Glad to be here. Glad to do an interview for you from the U.S.
Yeah, that's right, dude, for sure. Represent the U.S., man. I mean, we got a lot of great players. Like, I know we got Japanese players now making finals every week. We got all the people from South America that do great as well. So, you know, it's cool. America back on top, at least for, you know, this week.
Yeah.
Not
absolutely.
Too bad.
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, I got your list pulled up right now. I don't know if you're also looking at it, but I think we'll go over the list here in the first few minutes. I know some people are going to be interested. And I kind of just want to talk about, you know, like Dark Box in general right now. I think the last 4 weeks of Chill Series was won by Shadow Rider. And if you look at the other decks that made finals, we had some Rapid Strike Urshifu. I think we had other Shadow Riders. We had a Dark Box list that made finals but ended up losing. This week, though, at Chill Series, 4 of the top 8 decks that made it into Top Cut Bracket were all Dark-type lists. I think 4 were Dark Box. 1 was actually E-Turn. And that's a little bit crazy to me, Eric, but you know, what is your thought right now? Did you know, when you chose this list going into Chill Series, did you have that in mind, that Shadow Rider had won so much, or was this kind of just a deck that you already kind of liked a lot?
Yeah, you know, going into each tournament, I kind of like to metagame and think about what's the most played deck, and looking over the past weeks, like you said, the percentage for Shadow Rider was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it always is, and it's winning. It's getting first. It's getting second. So I'm like, okay, Dark Box slays Shadow Rider almost indefinitely. You just have to be dead drawing really bad, or you have to get donked by Gengar Mimikyu. But you know, as you can see from going into this tournament, that kind of changed a little bit in terms of my matchups. I mean, it was still pretty. I think it was probably the second most played deck. I think it. I don't know. I can't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure it was like the second most played deck, right behind Ice Rider. But yeah, so going into my rounds, I was hoping to hit at least a couple of them, you know, second most played deck, but I only hit 1 throughout my entire run.
Yep.
So
and that's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
It says a couple things there. It says Dark Box can still stand its own against non-Shadow Rider metagame. And I don't know what the second thing is. I forgot.
No,
but,
yeah,
it's a pretty good deck, and it has really good matchups, for sure. So
yeah,
that's kind of why that was my thinking going into it. I knew that Eternatus was gonna be, you know, a tough matchup. I was hoping to, you know, dodge Eternatus, which I did for the most part. I hit the same Eternatus player in Swiss as I did in top 4. I think it was top 4. Same guy. And then the other one is Ice Rider, which was the most popular. Luckily only hit 2 of those, but yeah, those were my losses. I lost to the Eternatus player in top 4, or the Eternatus player I played in top 4 in Swiss. That's when I lost to him. And then I lost to 2 Ice Riders at the end of the first phase of Swiss.
Yeah.
So it's a terrible matchup. Ice Rider really just only needs to hit 2 Melanies, and then that's pretty much it. As long as I get 1 Ping and Teleon, yeah, you're pretty much done. So
right, yeah, sure.
They've got plenty of time. The only thing you kind of have in your arsenal is the Dark Moon, and then maybe they have to Dedenne or something, and then you can, you know, turbo out the game and Greedy Crush. And yeah, so that's pretty much the game plan, but it never really works out in your favor. So
for sure,
yeah,
for sure. And so I personally, I'm not somebody that plays a lot of Mewtwo decks, and I haven't played a lot of this Dark Box list, but I've seen it kind of been played here and there. You know, of course, watching you in the finals as well. There's a couple things about the list that do stand out to me. Of course, Dark Moon GX is absolutely broken. I think that we have Moltres V, which accelerates more energies consistently. We have Red and Blue as well, which is not only a great way to consistently get out Weavile, but it's a great way to get the +2 energies on board as well. So for me, Dark Moon GX is kind of like the bread and butter of the list. At least that's what it seems like to me. But looking at your list and a lot of other, Mewtwo Dark Box lists, I see the Greninja and Zoroark-GX. Is that kind of like the odd man out in this list, or did you actually end up using it quite a bit?
No, Greninja and Zoroark-GX is absolutely a staple. There are a lot of times where it does two things. The first thing, and I'll remember the second thing this time. The first thing is early knockouts. So you have a 2 energy attack to do 60, 70 damage. Just 2 energy is 90. So you're able to knock out Sobbles, even Drizzles, just all the little squishy things. And then late game, if you're able to manage your energy really well and you can move them around, then you can just get up to those one-shots. VMAX is really tough. You need all 10 energy, unless they're weak to Psychic or Dark. Then that's pretty tough, but keeping them around... maybe even to like the 8 or 9 energy count can still be pretty good.
Yeah.
For some big swing knockouts. Greninja and Zoroark, very, very good. Never used the GX attack, but Dark Pulse is pretty good, and I would not cut it for sure.
For sure, yeah. And I know, like, from the matches I've watched, the Mega Sableye and Tyranitar-GX can be really good. Just the greedy crush. It's 5 energies, but a lot of times we have 5 energies on board, so it's that attack can be super, super clutch. I've seen that come in clutch a lot. The other thing that I wanted to mention, which of course is kind of this, the newest card in the list. Well, yeah, I would say the newest card is that Sabrina and Brycen tag team supporter. A lot of the Dark Box lists are running maybe a 2 or 3 count of that Sabrina and Brycen with the Weavile-GX. Now, do you think that it's the list is better when you have kind of the focus between the synergy of those two cards? You were just running the 1-of copy without the Weavile-GX. Was it a good 1-of for you, or was it kind of just like because it was new? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I first saw Shintaro running it in his Dark Box. I don't remember if he was running Weavile or not. I actually don't think he was, but he definitely was running a 2 count, I believe. And I kind of viewed that card. It's very good in this deck, absolutely. So the first effect, with just ignoring the second tag team effect, gets you 2 energy, right? And so that's pretty good, especially when you have discarding synergy elsewhere in the deck where you just want to get them into play really fast. But looking at the second effect, I was kind of thinking of the old tried and true, go second, get all your basics down on the board. So if it's prized, oh well. It's kind of like I imagine, Bridget back in the day. Most of the time you kind of ran a 1-of, unless it was imperative, like absolutely you needed, you'd run more Bridgets. But Sabrina Brycen was kind of just that luxury. If I got it going second, great. I can, discard a ton of cards, get some energy in the discard, and then get my, whatever basics I needed. And looking at the list, you can see I'm running like a split of the Sneasel, and that's pretty much the reason why I'm doing that, the water and the dark.
Right.
So if, going second, I can adapt to whatever situation I need to. I can get it out of the deck with Tag Call. It's a pretty good card. I don't think I would ever bump it up to a 2 or a 3 count. I understand why it's played in higher counts with Weavile. But yeah, in a turbo, I'm going to call this a quote unquote turbo version of Dark Box. I think a 1-of count's probably pretty good. So
for sure, man, and that's another thing too, is because we're running the tag call engine. You know what I mean? You got 4 in there. So the toolbox of the toolbox deck here, kind of, the Pokemon lineup is a bit of a toolbox, but also the supporter lineup. We got the Red and Blue, Mallow, Lana, Cynthia, Sabrina, Brycen. This is just a lot of different routes, a lot of different tools that you have at your disposal, which is definitely super, super good. So I mean, it's crazy to me, dude. Like, because this Chilling Reign, this format, when the new set came out, it really felt like kind of the old era. The Sun and Moon block was a bit phased out. You know, people running Ice Rider, Shadow Rider, Urshifu. You still saw some ADP in there. But you know, it seemed like things were finally kind of shifting over to the new era. All of a sudden, though, you get a list like this, which is almost entirely kind of based around, you know, Sun and Moon era cards. Still crazy. It's Mewtwo deck as well. I mean, technically, you know what I mean? So it's crazy that this is the deck that right now, at least right now, this and I guess Urshifu because of Shemansky and all that, are, I guess, the most limelighted decks at the moment. It's just a bit crazy to me. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to point that out. Wasn't a question. I was trying to turn it into one. I didn't have a question, but crazy.
Well, I'd like to, you know, run off of that. So there's a couple things. So the reason why I think this deck is so successful as it is, not me, but like you can see other top tier players way better than me are playing this deck to good success as well. And it's just because we're finally able to use these really broken attacks, like the best we've ever seen in the game. Dark Moon with the full effect, Greedy Crush. I mean, these are really broken, really good attacks. And, you know, people are still running Dedenne, so that Greedy Crush, it's insane. It's great. It's ADP. But you just got more options, and that's the other thing. Other people are saying, I mean, a lot of people, you know, I'm sure you've heard, we're running into this Sword and Shield format where you know you have your stage 1 and it does a lot of damage and that's all it does, and you don't really have any other options for the most part. Every single different type is, I think they call it like, it's like Skittles. You can have your red Victini, you can have your blue Victini and Ice Rider. I mean, there's little nuances, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, probably on engine
I hear what you're saying now. Yeah, for sure.
But Mewtwo really goes back to that. Wow, look at all these options I have, and I love options for sure. So and not to mention, we'll get to it later, but even with all the misplays that I did, it just goes to show how broken this deck is in terms of being able to come back even after all of that. So
yeah, it was wild. We'll get into that a little bit. I didn't want to make the video focused around it, but yeah, I mean, and if you guys are watching and if you haven't seen the grand finals match, definitely go check it out. You know, for the most part, both players played great. It ended with perhaps like the craziest sequence of I guess top decks or just draws like off the prizes and stuff in general that I've like ever seen, especially at Game 3, like in a grand finals. It was super entertaining at the very, very least. I recommend you go check it out. Spoiler, Eric came out on top, of course, but definitely pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, the list is super cool, man. And for me, like you said, you know, now that we have these extra ways to accelerate the dark energies, these cards that used to be kind of balanced, right? Because you have Dark Moon GX, you got Greedy Crush. They're high energy cost attacks. You know, typically it kind of makes sense. You're like, yeah, they're really powerful, but it's going to be difficult to get them out. Now, not as difficult nearly to get those attacks out, but they're still as powerful and absolutely insane. The one thing that I wanted to pivot towards was you played Jonathan Patricio in Grand Finals. He was also playing Dark Box, but with a heavy emphasis on Malamar VMAX.
Yes.
And that's the other big way that people are playing this list. You know what I mean? Is with that Malamar. What's your opinions on Malamar VMAX? I know the matchup was really close. I mean, Jonathan made it to finals. Definitely could have ended up winning that match. Do you think that, you know, like, would you ever try to go with the Malamar side or the dark side, or are you kind of, you know, staying over here?
I think, well, so Malamar, I mean, he has his list built in a way where he does have options, right? I mean, Weavile inherently just provides that. You can attack with Malamar, you can attack with Moltres. He's even got the Umbreon Darkrai in there with Mewtwo, but it kind of just runs into that issue of not putting out very much damage. I think not having the Greedy Crush or not having the Dark Pulse for the end game doesn't really... It kind of puts a hole into a lot of game plans. Like you're going with the 180 and just hoping to make sure, or like you can pick off a card in your opponent's hand. If you can get your opponent's hand really low and just keep it like that consistently, then I think Malamar is insane. But yeah, I mean, it's just I just think its damage output's really low, and as you could see in the games that we had, I was pretty comfortable just
Yeah.
leaving something like my Weavile in the active. I knew it was safe. The only way it's getting knocked out is 6 energy Dark Moon, and so yeah, so that's where I'm kind of at on Malamar. I don't know if I would play it. If I'm playing Dark Box till rotation, or if I'm playing Dark, it's going to be Dark Box towards till rotation, and then after that, I mean, what we have left? I guess Eternatus.
Yeah, that was another question I was going to ask too, but I'll get to that in a sec. Yeah, but like you just said, and like you said earlier, your Dark Box list was like kind of like it was Turbo Dark in a way. Definitely hyper offensive, and when you look at Jonathan's list, which I do have pulled up right now, he's got the 3/3 Malamar, but he's got like he's got the 2 Cheryl thrown in there, so it's definitely more of like a defensive kind of version of the archetype. Of course, both of you guys made finals. You both performed very well. I know some people definitely prefer one over the other. I don't, personally, I don't have any kind of, I guess, bias towards either of them. But definitely something that I just kind of wanted to mention. But, pivoting off of that, and after this, I want to get into your matchups. But,
yes,
what do you think about the future of Dark type lists? Now, for me, and this is what's kind of been ingrained in my brain right now, looking at the Japanese format, looking at Evolving Skies as it's about to come out, I think Shadow Rider, even after rotation, is going to be good. I know that this archetype, for the most part, rotating after rotation, most of these cards, and we're really kind of only left with E-Turn. I know we're getting Umbreon, and there's maybe some other things that we could be playing, but after what do you think the future of Dark type decks is? Do you think that Dark will still be this successful after rotation? Maybe when we just have E-Turn, or do you think that because with Medicham coming out too, do you think Urshifu is going to be too good, too popular? For you. Like, if you had to guess, like, what do you think is coming up for Dark decks?
Yeah, so there's, barring what comes out after Evolving Skies, from what we know just right now, there's really just 2 kind of ways to play Dark. I think Malamar's too expensive to do, so I don't think Malamar VMAX is going to make it without that. I mean, you actually could still do energy switch stuff with Moltres, but I think it might be too slow with the amount of damage it can do.
Right.
So with that said, I would say there's really like 2 ways. It's going to be just a full-on Eternatus VMAX deck, but as you say, Urshifu, yes, I think is going to be...
It'll be the best deck.
If not the best deck, it will be like second best deck going post-rotation.
Yep.
And there's no way to negate weakness because weakness guard energy is rotating. So
wild.
I think Eternatus is going to be there, but I think it's going to be low tier or mid tier.
Yeah.
And then the other way, which is going to be the most common way to combat Shadow Rider, is going to be just jamming Galarian Moltres Vs into decks. So
and you can't do that.
What's that?
You can do that. People are doing that now, even. But
exactly, yeah, and that's where I see it going. Galarian Moltres just being jammed into a lot of decks. Urshifu, there's lots of talk of that going on, so you can get the guaranteed Gmax Rapid Flow like every turn as long as you're hitting your Rapid Strike energies. Yeah, I mean, just Galarian Moltres V, insane card, and it's definitely going to get a lot of use post-rotation as well. So
for sure, for sure. To me, Moltres. I mean, obviously the Shadow Rider, Ice Rider, they're so good, been so popular. But in my eyes, like Moltres has kind of been the MVP from Chilling Reign. Like in kind of like the sidekick kind of way, where it's just a basic V Pokemon, but it's seeing play in ADP, all E-Turn, Dark Box. These are lists that have basically been evolved by Moltres. It also kind of sees play sometimes with Urshifu, although I don't know if I really condone playing Urshifu Moltres at this point. But yeah, man, I think Moltres is absolutely insane. It's been insane, but it's also just it feels really good, but it also kind of feels balanced in some ways. But they didn't go too overboard, but it's still really good. But yeah, to your point, Mew's also rotating. So for me, Urshifu just seems insane.
For sure.
Yeah, but we'll see. You never know. And I still think that Alcremie focused Shadow Rider is still going to be really good. Could be all, So you never know. You really don't. But all right. So I want to get into the matchup specifically, and you don't need to go in super detail. You don't got to get too far into it. I'm kind of just gonna point out things that I've seen through through the matchups that you played.
Go for it.
Immediately when I took a look at it, you beat ADP 3 times. Personally, I think that the matchup. Well, okay, so. It's hard because I think the matchup is somewhat even, but I think that most people who are playing Dark Box might understand the ADP matchup more than the ADP players will understand the Dark Box matchup, if that makes sense. But
that's fair.
Yeah, what are your thoughts though on the ADP matchup?
Well, the first thing is that ADP, this Chilling Rain format has gone away from the ADP we've known for so long. ADP used to be 2 ADP, 4 Zacian, just the standard, I'm gonna GX and then I'm gonna smack everything with Zacian. But for the most part, people and very smartly are not doing that anymore. They are going with the toolbox approach with Moltres V, Zapdos V. Somebody I remember was playing Ninetales V, even a Ditto V. So like you just have all these options to start hitting weakness. Because you just don't have that luxury anymore with Ice. Well, yeah. No, not Ice Rider because Zacian one-shots that. But Shadow Rider, you don't have the luxury of just hitting into it. You won't have time. So you need to really and they don't. People aren't playing Dedennes anymore. If anything, they're playing like maybe a one of or maybe a one of Crobat. So the boss play is not really there. So you really have to just start going through the active, and that's why we're seeing the Galarian Moltres Zapdos V. We're seeing them just be in these ADP lists. So right there, that's really good news for tag team decks because, specifically Mewtwo, right? Because now they're only one-shotting your Dark and your Psychic type. The only shot of them one-shotting your Mewtwo is with a Zacian B Rusted Sword GX. Right. As long as you're not benching too many of your Vs, which I was very able to do that very easily, just put down Galarian Moltres V, and that's pretty much all you need. Then the Galarian Zapdos V, unless they Ultimate Ray, but I'm a firm believer after they Ultimate Ray, you're probably going to lose. But if you're able to one-shot that ADP after the Altered Creation, then that Zapdos V is not really a threat so long as you don't overbench Galarian Moltres Vs or so that's pretty much it. I think it's a really easy matchup so long as you don't do that. You've got the time to build up Dark Moon GX because if you think about it this way, they're spending a couple turns getting Altered Creation so they can take an extra prize. Well, you're also taking a couple turns to, getting an extra prize throughout getting knockouts, but you're taking the time to build up a knockout on a 3-prizer, but also shutting down trainers, which is enough for you to really just like run rampant. And if they're not one-shotting your stuff, then, it's pretty easy. Yeah, so that's kind of like my take on the ADP Dark Box matchup.
For sure. I like that. That was good. Perfect.
Yeah, a little longer than probably I should have, but
that's good. No, that's perfect.
That's a detail.
That's why we're doing it, man. That's why we're doing the video,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then again, something again it's funny. Yeah, I just wanted to mention it. 4-0 against other Dark Box lists. Perhaps even 5-0 if we're counting the Guzzlord list. For people who are watching and you kind of are interested in playing this list or playing this archetype, definitely might be smart or I guess a good idea to maybe base it off of Eric's list here. Might be a smart idea. Just throwing it out there. Also 3-0 against Luke Metal and 2-0 against Urshifu. Do you find the Urshifu matchup to be that difficult, or do you think you kind of just outplayed some dudes later on in the event?
So first off, Urshifu is a really hard matchup. Yeah. I would have lost both instances of my games against Urshifu if I didn't have, so long as I had Mallow and Lana, I was pretty comfortable, right? Because you avoid benching your fighting weak stuff. I mean, you have to with Weavile, but everything else, like the tag teams, you're just going Mewtwo, right? It's like good old matchup with Pikarom. When you had Mewtwo, you're kind of just, all right, we're just going to try and, Psychic Weak, knock him out. Maybe get that Darkrai-GX out of there at some point, so you can do that. But but they're gonna try and set up like maybe a 2-shot or like on your Mewtwo's. Like if you have both Mewtwo's down, they're just gonna set them up for
they can take the 6 prize card kind of turn. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. But with a Mallow and Lana in there, that ruins everything.
That's right.
So
that's a good point.
As long as you have that, you're pretty good. Even with the Darkrai-GX, like when you got Dark Moon, you don't care how much HP they have. So
that's right. That's a good point.
Yeah. So and they also play, and so if you're Dark Mooning the active, right? Because you take out that 3 prize, and then you see that Darkrai-GX on the bench. I mean, that's just a boss greedy crush away from game. So that's pretty much the game plan. If they bench Darkrai, they're kind of like in a tough spot. Do they bench the Darkrai-GX? They don't want to put GXs into play, but then Mewtwo's one-shotting everything. So, I think it's pretty favored as long as you play the one of Mallow and Lana. But if you don't, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. Yeah. And just a little thing like that can make a big difference. Not something that I honestly would have thought of immediately when I asked you that question, but cool. Definitely interesting nonetheless. So. For everyone watching, Ice Rider, a little bit of a tough matchup against this archetype. E-Turn as well. Everything else, though, chicken dinner, especially if you're Eric Brooks here. Absolute savage. This dude won 7 games in a row to start off the tournament, hit 3 tough matchups, ended up going 7-3, and then was like, you know what? I'm not going to lose the rest of the tournament anymore. Ended up winning his next 8 matches. Just a very streaky run. What were your thoughts like at the end of Swiss 1 when you were 7-3 going into it? Like were you kind of like, all right, we need to get it rolling here or what? You know what I mean? Like because it's
I'm forgetting last week's winner, but he ended up doing kind of something a little bit similar. Like he lost the first. He lost the last game in phase 1 and then lost 2 in phase 2. So I was kind of just thinking, all right, let's just keep it at 3 losses and just win out. We can do this. And then sure enough, I got through there. Phase 2, there was some difficult games in phase 2. Like I said, I had to hit the Mallow on the right turn against the Urshifu player. There was a couple good close calls in the Dark Box mirror. The Luke medals are actually pretty free for the most part. It's when you think about it, it's a really free matchup. You have so much time, right? Like if you're playing against a defensive deck, that's pretty good.
Exactly. And Luke medal, it's like one of those things too where they like to kind of out tank or outlast some decks, but with Dark Moon and just kind of the overall damage output of your list, that I feel like. They just can't defend as much as you can kind of go on the offensive, which is
right. And Dark Pulse is like I said, that really comes in handy against this matchup for sure.
100%.
Yeah,
I'm always interested, man, because I run these tournaments every week and I see these people do well. They go all the way through. It's a long tournament too. For the people watching who don't necessarily play.
Yes.
It's a marathon. When you have 500 people playing, you can't just do 5 rounds and then a top 8. You know what I mean? You gotta.
Right.
It's just kind of the way it is, but super awesome, and it's always great to hear from the people who play, especially the people who win. You know what I mean? And I love making these videos. Not something I'm always able to do, but I'm very glad. Definitely very glad. Before we sign off, Eric, it's been a nice 30-minute video. It's been great talking with you. Do you have anything to say in regards to that grand finals match? Is there anything you maybe want to, I just gonna, you don't have to, you don't got to, but I don't know.
Yes. Okay. I would love to. So watching that grand finals match, you might think, how did this man make it to the finals? I'll tell you, it was rough. Like Maddie said, this was a 10-hour journey. We started around like 3:20 p.m. my time, and then we finished right around 1 a.m. So a little less than 10 hours. But yeah, so yeah, the finals. Going into it, I was like, ah, sweet, it's a dark box. It's Malamar. I think I got a good chance at this. Um, first, so there's two things in that grand finals that I remember that were pretty bad for me. That I was like, the first time was I misplayed. So round one, I Dark Mooned. I knew he couldn't like retaliate with something to knock out my Mewtwo. It would have been pretty tough. So I Dark Mooned, and then I was like, all right, I got game. I got boss in hand. I'm gonna greedy crush his Weavile on the bench. I forgot about resistance, but what was going on in my head was, look, if I take out his Weavile, he always has to put Weavile into play, right? Like that's something he always has to do. So if I take out his Weavile, he might be thinking, it might be messing with his brain a little bit. Okay, it might do something, right? And that was my whole thing, was like, maybe he won't think about the Dedenne, so he'll just bench Dedenne all the time, and that'll be easy. Oh, caught him off guard. But at this level of play, that's something like I shouldn't even have been thinking about. Like, of course he's gonna realize Greedy Crush is gonna take out his Dedenne or whatever. That was just something late in the middle of the night. I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna try and catch him off guard. But this is top level play. I shouldn't even have done that. And then, yeah, I get punished because of resistance. And then later on, I remember Zach, I believe, in the commentating saying, I benched, in game 2, I benched T-Tar and Mega Sableye. And then he was saying something along the lines of, well, maybe he's a little shook because of the Mewtwo with the resistance. And really, the reason why I did that, it had nothing to do with that. It was just because I didn't want to set myself up for failure with the Mewtwo coming just one-shotting me out of nowhere, because he played the one Mewtwo. So he could have, that takes that option out completely. But yes, it does take away the resistance problem with Weavile. Yeah. But so yeah, that was the first thing. That was a misplay. That totally on me. Really dumb. Second thing is I was bossing, and my friend pointed this out. I should not be dragging boss to the bench. It might make for a better commentary for whoever's watching it, but I should just play boss and then click. But I dragged boss, and then it like grabbed on to the Galarian Moltres, and I'm like, are you serious? Am I really gonna do this? I'm gonna
did that happen
in the finals? I'm gonna do this, really? And so I don't want to make excuses, but I was like, so my wife, my friend, and my son were all playing in the living room this whole afternoon, and I brought my like laptop down. Didn't have a mouse, just playing, but going pretty far. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then like I don't even like go and get a mouse or anything. I'm just playing with a mouse pad. And so like I'm just
a dangerous game, dude.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, okay, well, this is my fault.
No, I mean,
it happens.
Yeah, so it happens.
Yeah, and so I ended up bossing that Galarian Moltres V, and I'm like, well, shoot. I wanted to get the Weavile, take the 3 prizes, and I'm pretty set up. I knew I had a couple bosses in the prizes, 50-50 chance of grabbing one of them. And if I take out the Weavile, he can't move his energy around. I was like, sweet. But instead, wanted to make it more interesting on myself and misclick and bring up the Moltres. So yeah, ended up GXing, and then, as you say, spoilers, really insane. God was definitely on my side. I had nothing in hand. He was using Malamar to get rid of. I don't remember what he got rid of, but it was.
I think you had a boss in hand, which was what you needed to win. I think I might be wrong. And then he took that out with Malamar, and then when you took the 2 prize cards, both of them were boss, I believe.
No, I think he took something else out of my hand because I top decked boss.
Oh, okay.
Because I used boss on the Galarian V, the Galarian Moltres V, and then if he would have taken boss, then there was no way of me top decking into boss, because I think it goes on the bottom, right?
Yeah, you're right. And and the other 2 were prized.
Yeah, exactly. So I top decked boss, like the one card that I needed. There were other ways, right? I probably could have dug more
Yeah.
with Dedenne or something, but of course I top deck boss.
It was good, man. It's always a good
Like,
feeling. There's no better feeling in the world. You know what I mean?
yeah, like I said, God was on my side, and then I was able to take out what I wanted to take out, the Weavile. So Tyranitar and Mega Sableye carried the entire game. It wasn't what I was expecting, but it did. And took out the Weavile, and then I rip two bosses off my last prizes.
That was
And that was just
that's the icing on the
exactly what I
cake.
needed. He didn't have the reset stamp.
Right.
Used the Malamar, saw the two bosses. It was his worst nightmare. Right there.
Yeah, man.
So
It's listen, and a lot of people, they're gonna say they're gonna maybe talk smack, they're gonna point it out, but I don't think people realize, and especially when you've played that late into the night, when you're going on 10 hours of ptcgo, not only is it a mental thing, where it's late, you've been playing so much, you might get burnt out mentally, but in ptcgo, it's about clicking. You know what I mean? And you, like you said, you're on a trackpad, so not only do you have to make sure that you're actually intending on making the right plays, but you have to make sure that every single click is the right one, and that your mouse and your cursor's in the right spot. You probably clicked your mouse or your on your trackpad or whatever 500
Yeah.
times that night. You know what I mean?
Oh
So-
yeah, and I mean, yeah, the trackpad's on me, right? But like you say, like in terms of physical versus online play, you could be holding a boss in your hand, and I mean, it's really your fault if you boss
Yeah,
something
right,
like
right.
in a high-end tournament, and you're like, I'm gonna boss that. Oh wait, I misclicked.
Yeah, no, right. It's different. It's different, and
So
people don't understand that, and again, this definitely isn't the first time people have made misclicks or misplays in finals. It's
Sure.
it's honestly kind of common, and chill series events at this point have become a battle of attrition as much as they have a battle of skill. And it's nothing new. It's nothing new, to be honest with you. And I don't think anyone
Yeah.
rightfully should kind of get on you for that. But,
yeah, I'm just glad it made for an interesting
It's right.
finals.
It
That's
did.
that's really what I'm pretty hyped about.
It was very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, awesome. It was great to talk to you. I mean, this is the first time I've ever talked to you, but that's the
Yeah.
best part about what I do here and doing all this is not only giving people an opportunity to play, compete, win packs, just kind of win events, have fun, but getting to meet everybody, and all the great players. Who
Yeah, I
kinda come
appreciate
through.
it, Maddie, and thank you for bringing me on. It was a real pleasure.
For sure, man. Well, I had something else I wanted to say before we get out of here. Honestly, though, I kind of forget. What did I want to say? Yeah, man, I don't know. I had something that sounded good, but I don't remember for the life of me what I wanted to mention. But you know what? Not a big deal, guys. We're going to get out of here. Eric Brooks, Chill Series number 42 champion. I actually just remembered, Eric.
All right.
So, you win Chill Series, right? And I forget the whole mathematics when it comes to the rankings and the ranking system and the point values, whatever. But you've qualified, right? By winning, you've qualified for that $2,500 invitational tournament at the end of the season.
So it's 20 points like guaranteed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be doing top 64, so you're in. That's typically how it is. Technically,
Gotcha.
it's not like a guarantee, but like there's not going to be that many people with 20 points. You know what I mean? So
I wasn't sure because you said I think I heard you in a video saying that you were also doing points in Zach's tournaments as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that maybe like would change things, but
it could, but
Yeah.
very, very unlikely, I suppose, should be the right terminology. Even if you got like a top 64 or a top 128 here and there in the next 8 weeks or whatever, you'll be good. But
Cool.
all but qualified. What do you feel about that? You excited?
yeah, I'm hyped. Yeah, this will be fun. I'm really excited. So
I am too, man.
Yeah.
I am too. It's gonna be great. All right. Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna sign out. 40-minute video. I apologize for taking so much of your time, but I really did enjoy
no.
it. Hopefully, everybody watching did too. Thank you guys so much for
Yes.
watching. Been Maddie from Chill TCG. Got Eric Brooks here. Before we go, let them know who you are, where they can find you, your accounts,
Yes.
Twitter, everything like that. Let them know.
Sweet. Yeah. All right. So my name's Eric Brooks, of course, and you could find me at Twitter. My at is RAPTR4, Raptor4. That's always just been my tag name for everything. So you can find me there. And you can also check out my YouTube channel. It is just Nintenbro, Ninten Bro. It's kind of been pretty dead. I had my firstborn in February, so
Congrats.
a lot of time has been dedicated to my family. But I have something in the works that I'm trying to put together. I'm gonna start like a podcast, unlike any Pokemon TCG related podcast before. There's gonna be a ton of viewer interaction. It's gonna be pretty sweet. So
That's awesome.
definitely be on my Twitter and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because that's where I'm going to be doing my podcast, is on the YouTube channel. So don't know exactly what the name is yet, but like I said, it's gonna be pretty sweet.
Yeah, but it'll be awesome. Yeah, no, that's sweet. That's awesome, man. I used to do a little podcasting myself. It's a good time. It really is. But whenever you get that rolling, if you need a guest or whatever, I'm always available.
Sounds good, Maddie. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, you guys have a good one, and everybody watching, you guys have a good one. Don't forget to register for Chill Series number 43 coming up Wednesday. We do them every Wednesday this week, no different. Go register. Link to all of Eric's Twitter and his YouTube and stuff going to be down in the description. Link to register for Chill Series this week also down in the description. Also, his deck list will be down there as well, so definitely go check it out. Play it for yourself. Try it out. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. All right, man. Let's get out of here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.